Help me understand the JJ McCarthy love.
Well, first of all, good to be on with you again, Dan. And I think that we all know that quarterbacks are going to be inflated in the pre-draft process because of the fact that it's the hardest position that I would argue in all of sports to find a capable option at. But this offseason is particularly ripe for a quarterback like JJ McCarthy to move up the board because of the fact that you've got a handful of teams that are all fishing in a very, very small pond right now. If you look at the teams beyond the top three in the current NFL draft order, Chicago, Washington, and New England, you then get to teams starting as soon as I would argue pick 6, the New York Giants, who might well be in the quarterback market this offseason. You've got the Giants, you've got the Falcons, you've got the Vikings at pick 11, you've got the Broncos at 12, you've got the Raiders at 13, you've got the Steelers at number 20. Then you have other teams like, for an example, the Los Angeles Rams, who not for this year, but might be eyeing the future. So the point is that you've got a lot of teams hunting for a quarterback, and there's only one team for Baker Mayfield, and there's only one team for Kirk Cousins, regardless of where those teams are, which is going to lead teams to turn towards the draft. And JJ, I think, probably has put himself in position to be the 4th quarterback off the board. Relative to where I will have him ranked on Wednesday, I won't spoil it all, but I have him at 27th on my overall prospect rankings. So that will be incongruent with where I think he winds up going in the draft. But this is the quarterback tax that very much impacts in a positive way guys like JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, but I wonder about this, that he gets credit for going to the combine. Well, yeah. Okay, should you get credit for going to the combine? The other quarterbacks had nothing to gain by working out the top 3. And if McCarthy wants to kind of close that gap between, the top 3 quarterbacks and then the 4th quarterback, then I understand him going there. But I don't know. Once again, I don't get the love. I don't understand it because I watch, and I didn't think he was the best player on his own team or offense. But It feels like Denver loves him. Maybe Minnesota loves him. Kind of wild. Does he deserve credit for working out at the combine?
Well, so here's what I would say is, first of all, however you and I feel about him might be, it's going to end up being irrelevant because I think the NFL is going to end up liking him a whole lot more than maybe we are talking about him in this vein. And there are certainly some traits to really like about JJ McCarthy. He's a very good athlete. He has excellent ball placements. He's able to move and throw on the run, things that are important traits that can travel because the offensive line he'll likely play behind in the NFL is not the one that he played behind at Michigan this year, which had 6 offensive linemen at the combine. Yeah. So guys who aren't even starters for Michigan are at the combine as one of the 320 or so best prospects. Mel Kiper Jr. reminded me of something early on in the process this year, and he is going to hammer it home with me and anybody else who's involved in the draft, which is that sometimes your first scout on the player, your first instinct on the player, your first evaluation on the player is going to end up being the most accurate relative to where or what he becomes in the NFL. Because events like the Combine are certainly important pieces of the puzzle. But over these past 5 or 6 days, we've seen players who all of a sudden their stock is going way, way, way up without doing anything that actually involved playing a football game. I'm not saying a 40-yard dash is not important or, the bench press or the 3-cone drill or anything that they did over these past 5 or 6 days. But I've always felt like maybe the most important part of the combine is actually the medical evaluation, because that's the kind of stuff that us on the outside don't have great information on. And even teams themselves are going to learn more about, because you can't figure out on film whether a guy has, a bulky knee that needs further examination and the potential for, a second surgery or something of that nature. So while I think the Combine has become the signature event of the NFL offseason, and I certainly love being there, I do think there is a very delicate balance that we must maintain, which is we just spent 5 months watching these guys on the field. And in the case of some of these players, 4 full seasons prior to that. That should be the most important part of the evaluation, but it's very tempting to latch on to record-setting 40 times or guys who can bench press 225 pounds for 35 plus reps.